Hello and welcome to Global Business Insights. This is Badejo-Okusanya on another episode where we discuss the latest issues focusing on finance, business, and macroeconomics. Investors are bracing for the emergence of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States in what is looking like a landslide victory. Also, interest rate decisions from the Federal Reserve, that's the FOMC, and the Bank of England, that is going to be tomorrow. We'll also bring you the outcomes of that meeting. A Harris victory would have continued the Biden's administration's policies of incentivizing the rollout of renewables while facilitating fossil fuels production to enable the US to remain the world's largest producer, and is a much better understood and predictable scenario. Wall Street stocks closed yesterday slightly higher as presidential election results were in focus. Dow futures, however, spiked up 800 points as Trump was projected to win the key swing state Pennsylvania, which will take him over the 270 mark required for him to become president. There are insights we can glean from the process. The Senate, we understand, has also gone to Republicans. On Monday, Bitcoin was rising ahead of the US presidential election. Bitcoin yesterday surged to $75,000. That was a new record as traders bet Trump has the edge in the election. On data, yesterday economic activity in the US service sector expanded at an accelerating pace in October above expectations, with the ISM services PMI rising to 56 from 54.9 in September. Oil inched lower as the markets digested the US presidential election results, and another hurricane threatens production in the Gulf of Mexico. Brent still over $75 per barrel. In the UK, all eyes are on the new UK Conservative leader Yomi Badejo as she rewards both allies and rivals with prominent front bench roles. Before the Trump victory, which is still being digested, we spoke with lead partner CMC Connect, Perception Consulting, and the Director General Nigeria Reputation Management Group and Fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, Yomi Badejo-Okusanya. And we are looking at some lessons so far, focusing on the process of the elections, not on the outcomes. In US politics, we saw the model of a new generation emerging out of the old, a kind of phoenix model, with Harris rising gloriously out of the established and well understood order and Biden bowing out. But voters seem to have chosen the outlier, unpredictable billionaire who wants to shake things up, he says positively. The votes, when analyzed, may show the voice of women for Harris was overestimated, and instead we saw a new so-called emerging working class coalition for Donald Trump. Both parties offered compelling propositions to their base. The rhetoric was strong. 2 assassination attempts, a lot of gaslighting, and some dramatic debates. On the global front, the focus was on China, Russia, Ukraine, Iran, Israel, and Europe, with both candidates saying little to nothing on Africa. Yomi Badejo-Okusanya is lead partner, CMC Connect, and he's going to talk on the issues and attempts to come up with learning points.
Yes, indeed. The silence by both candidates on Africa speaks volumes. It shows that Africa still is not in the dynamics of American politics. We heard them speaking on Haiti, speaking on Puerto Rico, speaking on Latin America, both candidates. But I'm not so sure that the Africa has come up. They are also appealing to the African Americans, the Afro-Americans, but not Africa in itself. And that leaves a lot to be desired. How do we remedy this? I believe that perhaps when Africa begins to contribute its own more effectively to world economics, then the Africa will come up in the discussions. And now, talking about the marriage between business and politics, we've seen that a lot on both sides. Elon Musk supporting Trump and spending as much as 75 million, 80 million, 100 million on super PACs, apart from the money that he's giving out. It's not surprising because most business people would like to protect their interests, and therefore they feel which of the candidates best represents their interest or can best preserve the interest. And you can see that also on the other side, quite a number of billionaires are supporting Kamala Harris, and then of course those who are supporting Trump. I believe Trump's policies, especially where he has promised to cut tax for the billionaires, will attract more billionaires to him, while the middle class will benefit more from a Kamala Harris promise. Now, the high cost of the US presidential election, it's scary, and I think it's a model that we have taken here in Nigeria, and we have adapted it almost hook, line, and sinker, as they say, except that ours is not based on politics. Ours is based on money politics. There's so much money that has been spent, but it's not spent on giving individuals or giving organizations, except for what Elon Musk has done. It's usually spent on advertising, which is a great plus to people who are in my industry, and is also spent effectively on the ground game, not like people are being induced. Well, again, the jury is still out on what Elon Musk did by giving out $1 million every day to some the registered voters of especially the Republican Party. We don't know how the judge has said it can continue, which actually does stop today. But post-election, we don't know what the outcome of the judgment will be in court. On the elongated process of what you call early voting and then mail-in ballots, it has been in place for a while, especially in certain states in the United States of America. But of course, like the COVID accentuated it, and there was a lot of that. I think that the Republican Party lost out on the issue of the early voting, and they have recovered from that. And this time around, from what we're gathering, there hasn't been significant difference between the voting pattern in terms of early voting, both from the Democrats and the Republicans, which of course has made the race even tighter than it normally would have been. One thing that we need to also look at is the issue of litigation, and there is a lot of talk about Mr. Trump not accepting the results if he lost, and therefore the Democrats have lined up several lawyers in their tens, in their hundreds, to be able to fight the legal issues that may arise from him not accepting defeat. He didn't the last time, and we are all certain that he wouldn't again this time if he lost. It would be very interesting to see how it will come or how it will play out at this time. Also, the issue of incumbency. Funny enough, with Mr. Biden dropping out of the race, President Biden dropping out of the race, and then the challenging following on his vice, it has changed the configuration of the entire election, because here you have someone who is new but is also somewhat of an incumbent, and then you have somebody who has been there before. So some of the allegations that have been leveled against Ms. Harris, we can say the same for President Trump, because while Ms. Harris was, what we call in the passenger seat somewhat in the presidency, Mr. Trump was at the helm of affairs. There are many questions that are asked about, or the Republicans keep on asking the Democrat that if you have such lofty ideas, why didn't Ms. Biden implement them as vice president? The truth of the matter is that she was not at the top of the ticket. She was not the president. She is the vice president, and she can only go as far as her president, leads her to. On the other hand, Mr. Trump held sway for 4 years, and there are things that he's promising now, and you also wonder why he didn't implement them in those 4 years.
The question on the mind of some is what all this means for the rest of the world and especially emerging economies. We definitely should not be buying what looks like a very costly winner takes all, do or die US election model. My take is to find a less expensive, more inclusive blend, less vulnerable to capture, and that preserves a place for smaller parties and reduces distrust so that new leaders can move forward in a more collaborative manner with tough reforms. Again, Yomi Badejo-Okusanya comments on the question of whether there are things the world can borrow, focusing on the process.
My answer is both yes and no. Yes, in the sense that there were a lot of policy issues that came up, and issues on the economy, issues on the immigration, issues on reproductive rights, and so on and so forth. I think those issues really helped to shape the narrative for the election. And you will agree with me that in terms of rhetorics, maybe one contender should not have still been in the game, if not for the fact that those issues were very strong in terms of economy, in terms of immigration, and equally matched by the issue of reproductive rights, which has been championed by the women. So I enjoyed the fact that the policy played a center stage. But no, what I would not like Nigeria to learn from it is the very, very, very abusive nature of, or what you call the very ugly rhetorics that came up. America is supposed to be the gold standard when it comes to democracy, and they've just shown us that they also have a soft underbelly. I would not like Nigerians to borrow a leaf from that. I think that I look forward to the day where our elections are driven more about policy rather than religion or ethnicity or tribalism. I look forward to the days where people's actions or inactions of that of politicians will have significant effect on their success or failure at the polls. Well, irrespective of the outcome of the election, we know that one of the two parties can never be the same again. As I said, the genie has been let out of the bottle and it will not come back. I'm not sure we would ever see the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan, Mitt Romney, McCain. I'm not sure we can see that party again. I think it will be very difficult for the Republican Party to reshape itself to that time. I think, and with the Kamala win, we will see a new generation of leaders for the Democratic Party and also a new generation of leaders for the country in itself. So it's a significant election.
Asia Pacific markets are mostly higher as Wall Street surged overnight ahead of the US presidential election results. The 5-day meeting of China's National People's Congress is in progress, with investors still watching for clues on additional stimulus. Well, that's all they can take on this episode of Global Business Insights. This is Yomi Badejo-Okusanya. Thanks for sharing, and again, thank you so very much.